Hello everybody. Yes. Didn't see the sun yesterday, and I don't think I'm going to see it today, but at least it didn't rain. So there you go. More painting and gardening to do today. So next 2 days after that I'm doing some driving, so I thought I'd use this opportunity to just talk about something which has been going on for quite a long time now, and it's now reached a ridiculous head. So I just thought I'd just put in my tuppence worth for those who can be arsed listening. Conspiracy theories, yeah, don't you just love a good conspiracy theory? Funny enough, I think the understanding is in actual the wording conspiracy theory, and it never goes down as conspiracy fact. Now, I quite bought into this, is hence why I'm the way I'm now about this whole Lloyd Evans conspiracy theory. I bought into a long time ago. I watched a documentary about JFK. This is before the film JFK by Oliver Stone, I think it was, and it was a documentary made by Godley and Cream. If anybody knows who they are, they used to be, well, they used to be, I think there's only one of them left, in a band called 10cc, who was a global hit with a song called I'm Not In Love, which is a very good song, around about 1978 I think it was, but I may be wrong. And basically they did this documentary, or funded this documentary, because they went into like film production about how the John F. Kennedy, that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald that killed him. And I recorded that on a videotape. And for those who don't know what a videotape is, it's something bigger than a phone, and you put it into a slot into a machine, and you press record, and it records it on a tape, and the tape was about that thick. And I literally played that tape to death. I watched it and watched it and watched it, absolutely convinced that what they was having to say was true, and that JFK hadn't been shot by Lee Harvey Oswald. And then round about the same time, I think, there was actually a TV programme from America called The Trial of Lee Harvey Oswald, where somebody decided it'd be a good idea to give Lee Harvey Oswald a trial in absence of him being there, because he'd obviously been shot by Jack Ruby. And coincidentally, if anybody doesn't know this, but there was a DJ in Britain called John Peel, and John Peel championed bands who weren't known, one of them being Fairport Convention, for instance, and he went on to champion Joy Division and loads of others, and I used to listen to him most nights between 10 and 12 during the weekday. And John Peel at that time was actually working in America, and he was actually in the police bit when they brought out Lee Harvey Oswald. He was actually there and saw him getting shot by Jack Ruby, so there you go. It just came to mind. I hadn't thought about that for years. Anyway, where was I? Oh, of course, yes. So when the trial finished, where they had people who were still around at the time, you know, people who were part of the investigation or eyewitnesses or whatever, they still found Lee Harvey Oswald solely responsible for the killing of JFK. And I was a bit upset. I thought, oh man, the travesty, it's an injustice. And then, of course, the JFK film came out, which it was confirmation bias for myself that it was a conspiracy and it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald at all. And the next thing is, I saw a magazine once on. I was just going down to the line in Central Station to take me to Rutherglen, and I saw on this newsstand. I don't know if it's still anymore, a little news outlet bit, and they said JFK's killer uncovered, and I thought, oh, I must buy this. And unfortunately, it wasn't. It's a magazine called Viz. If anybody knows what Viz is about, I never read it before. And I literally sat down there, and tears were rolling down my eyes, because they had people like the Fat Slags and Johnny Fart Pants and other people. It was just adult comic humour, and two guys were standing there watching me, literally crying with tears of laughter, and they said, oh, he's reading Viz. So anyway, I read Viz, and I read this article about uncovering who killed JFK, and actually, in their opinion, it was Elvis Presley. So yeah, they were just basically taking the piss out of people who bought in this conspiracy theory. And then what happened was, I saw a documentary on the TV which I decided to watch, and it basically tore apart any conspiracy theories relating to Lee Harvey Oswald. And then I saw another one again. So I then thought to myself, oh my God, I was so taken in by that conspiracy theory, which inevitably led to me, when conspiracy theories come up, always think, I smell bullshit. I call bullshit on this one. The next big conspiracy theory that program I watched, of course, the one about 9/11. There's something on YouTube, and it has been watched millions and millions of times by some, program, a guy doing this thing, and you get a few experts and non-experts up, and it sounds very plausible, but again I watched and I thought, no, this is complete bullshit, because at the end of the day is I saw those planes flying into those buildings, although I was working at the time, and I had my wife ring me say there's another one gone in, and give me updates on what was happening. And yet some people's conspiracy theory is that there were no planes at all. They were all actually holograms, and they weren't passenger planes. They were actually military planes, and that the government was behind it all. It was an inside job, and the CIA was behind it all. That whole thing. And when you do that, the problem with the conspiracy theory is that you take away from the person who has done something, and you take that away from them and say, oh no, we can't blame this person, there's something bigger going on here. And as a result, it wasn't a case of blaming these guys. There's footage clearly of these guys going through this very lax passport security. There's people we know who actually train these guys to they weren't interested in landing, just taking off. And it's there for all to see. The fact of the matter is, there are people saying that within the two towers, that there are already explosives in there. If that's the case, then why not just, because terrorists use bombs, terrorists are known to using bombs, just blow up the buildings. If you just blow up one or give notice, that's going to, to actually bring down those two buildings. That would cause fear and panic through the whole of the world. And apparently there had already been a terrorist threat, a bomb, a number of years before. But at the end of the day is they didn't need to have bombs bringing down those buildings, because at the end of the day is the site of, I know there was only footage of one plane going to one building, but when the second plane went in, there was like cameras galore from all sorts of angles, and there's no denying that a plane crashed into those two buildings. And so at that time, immediately, how many people died in those planes? Like 200 people straight away dead, plus all the peoples in those floors died, and then people who were trapped, who either had to take the decision to either burn to death or jump out the window. This is before those buildings fell down. Already, the world woke up, and America woke up to the fact that they could actually be attacked on their own soil, when beforehand they've been quite immune to any terrorist threats. You didn't need the building to come down. If you wanted to put a country into fear and the whole world into fear and being insecure, those two planes did the job. It's ridiculous to suggest that they decided to put some bombs in, because when a plane is travelling so fast as those did, obviously the terrorists were told, by the way, make sure you crash after floor 250, because we planted a whole load of bombs after that anyway. If you were actually a terrorist getting briefed and said, right lads, we want you to crash these planes into buildings, you're going to lose your lives, but we've also put some bombs in there, I'm sure the guys go, well, what's the point of losing our lives when you're going to bring the buildings down anyway? Again, it makes no logical sense. And to have a good theory, at least have some semblance of something that makes some sense. And the worst one is, of course, is that whole craziness regarding the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, where people saying it was actually it was a drone from the American military, but from the CIA. That's it, that's the clever one. Why don't you attack your own building? Apparently Donald Rumsfeld was behind it all. Where was he? He was actually in the Pentagon. If I was going to be behind an operation to crash something into the building and a general loss of life, I'd actually make sure I was on holiday that day or going to visit somebody. I would actually be in the building. And yet people say, oh no, there's no footage of the plane going through, and there's some shitty security footage which is really crap. But the end of the day is, we know that plane took off. We know that there were real people on the plane. We know their names, we know their family. Some of them were like, I think, senator, a producer of the programme Frasier. There were real people who died on that plane, and they've never been seen since. So the theory is it wasn't a plane that crashed in the Pentagon, it was actually a drone. So where are those people? Have they also bought into the conspiracy and say, yeah, I tell you what, we want to be behind this idea to go and attack the Middle East and use this as a pretense for this attack, and then several years later just say to everybody, say to Al-Qaeda, there you go lads, it's all yours again. And where are they now? Are they on some island, you know, are they on some sort of, you know, scary island like Lost, and just there going, shit, I really miss my mum and my dad and my daughter and my job, you know, my brother and my sister, my husband. It's just ridiculous. So when people say that it was a missile that attacked the Pentagon, you totally trample on these people and their family, because we know they were on that plane and we know they died, and even people saw the plane coming in, even street signs were bent over, even this wreckage of the American Airlines tail, I think it is, you can see it outside the building. But hey ho, this is just the nonsense of that. And the people who made that documentary have subsequently come back and said, yeah, I think we've got a few things wrong. We've got a few things wrong, I think you got it all wrong. And unfortunately millions of people buy into it, and millions of people still think that 9/11 was an inside job. Even the drummer in Always the Way, he actually thought that it might have been an insurance job by apparently some Jewish guy who owned the buildings. Yeah, that makes sense. He's got the deaths of like 3,000 people on him, and if he was going to do that, just do why involve the Pentagon? It doesn't make any sense. This is a problem with conspiracy theories. It doesn't make any sense. And around about the same time, on YouTube is this awful conspiracy theory in that the Apollo 11 was a fake moon landing. And of course, if anybody knows me, when you obviously don't, knows that I was born on the day that the Neil Armstrong stood on the moon. It's my birthday. It was July 21st, 1969. And so I've always had an affinity with the moon landings, and all those moon landings and the subsequent Apollos after that, they were the only TV in our school was permanently in our classroom. We were watching it all going on, especially what was going on with, especially with Apollo 13, whether the life and death situation, which is a bit odd, because if they had died, us kids who were about 9 or 10 or at the time could have been traumatized, like the kids were who watched the two shuttles, well, especially the first one, blow up as it was taking off. All the kids who were sitting down to watch that must have been traumatized for the rest of their lives. And yet with us kids watching this big TV, we're watching the Apollo, the tension and whether the Apollo 13 guys are going to make it. For the people who say, and again the drummer in the band Always the Way, he believes a conspiracy theory. He believes that when Neil Armstrong sort of went into anonymity after it and wouldn't really talk about it because he was feeling guilty about pretending to the American people he stood on the moon when he hadn't. And even my cousin's husband believes it's a conspiracy theory as well, that they didn't have the technology to do that. It's just bizarre because, okay, let's buy into the conspiracy theory that yes, the Apollo 11 landings were completely fake. So you've got away with it, you've brought the astronauts back, everybody believes that they sent them to the moon. Why? Why, oh why, oh why? And here it comes into making logical sense. Would you 3 months later repeat the same scan? Apollo 12 took off November, it was like 3 months later, 4 months later. And that went and they did it and they came back. Apollo 13, they nearly lost the 3 guys. Did they just do that as a stunt to say, yeah, we've got to prove it really is like a life and death situation? Then after Apollo 13, there was 14, 15, 16 and 17. And they all, in a 3-year span, this happened. In 3 years, they did what? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 7 Apollo missions, when the first one was fake, and the rest of them must have been fake as well because the technology hadn't improved that much. Why do that? You wouldn't do that. Even somebody went up to Buzz Aldrin, there's a YouTube of him saying, you're going to admit that was fake, and he went up and punched the guy in his face, because the end of the day is, the first astronauts in Apollo 1 died. They died when there was some combustible gases in the capsule they're in, and they burnt to death. And so again, you're trampling on the memory of these people as well, because they would have had to been part of the conspiracy as well. And the Apollo 11 alone, 250,000 people were involved in the Apollo 11 moon landing. You know, that's a lot of people to be involved in this conspiracy theory, and you would have thought that by now that there'd be a deathbed confession by somebody quite high up who has the documentation, who has the paper trail to then say, look son, I have to admit to you, we never really got to the moon, it was just a set-up stage. It's just bollocks. And that brings us finally to the Lloyd Evans conspiracy theory. Now, this one has been going on for quite a wee while now. And I read it ages ago on this sort of Lloyd Evans thread that I follow. And unfortunately, it's now raised its ugly head again because basically somebody's put up a video. So it's a computer generated. It sounds like, you know, I don't know, it sounds like, a Dalek speaking or whatever going, Lloyd Evans, you know, it sounds like the guys from Kraftwerk, we are the robots. So anyway, it's somebody, saying that basically Lloyd Evans, that it goes like this way. The Lloyd Evans is a watchtower plant. And Lloyd Evans is still one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a plant concocted by somebody really high up and intelligent in the watchtower and said, look, what we want you to do is, there's a lot of people starting on this thing called YouTube, and there's a lot of YouTube activists on there talking about their witnessy life and how all the witnesses wrong. So what we want you to do is we're going to set you up, and we're going to give you a good backstory. We want you to go on and to dominate the activism on YouTube. We want you to be the main man, and we're going to sort of give you some scoops. We'll give you some footage that only you are going to get privy to. You're going to put up, and people are going to buy into the fact that that people are sending you with inside the watchtower all these secret things and all this exclusive material, and people are going to really believe that you are the main man, and you're going to bully and get rid of all the rest of the activists, and you're going to be the guy there. And what we're going to do at some point, we're going to send you a code word after you've been the champion for child sex abuse, the main advocate against the cover-up of child sex abuse within Jehovah's Witnesses. We're going to get you on the main panels for any committees looking into cover-ups within the witnesses. We're going to get you all over mainstream media, especially in England. Why England, not America, I don't know. Again, doesn't make any sense. We're all going to get you on the Leah Remini show. Make sure you're there as well. And then once you are the champion against the cover-up of child sex abuse within Jehovah's Witnesses, because we all know it doesn't happen, and then we're going to send you a code word. Your phone is going to go beep, 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 and it'll go code Silvio. And at that point, you've got to go to somebody who's bought into this whole concept of you being the main man, and you're going to admit to Kim Silvio that you've been using prostitutes over the past 4 years, and that you're going over to Thailand to do scuba diving. And then when you come back, we're going to get photos leaked by a female to show that you were in Thailand, and then we're going to get you to admit that you did use prostitutes in Thailand, and then we're going to get you to go on the Andrew Gold TV and admit that you dated sex workers in Thailand. We're going to bring you down. We're going to ensure that we'll bring you down, you'll come down, and eventually you've done a great job. What will happen is, anybody looking at any Jehovah's Witness, any of your material, go, well, I can't watch any of this Lloyd Evans stuff because he's the guy that admitted using prostitutes. You will have got rid of all the rest of the opposition. You would have totally discredited any ex-Jehovah's Witness movement. You will keep witnesses within the witnesses. They'll get to hear about this and say, well, there you go, brothers and sisters. If you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, you'll turn into Lloyd Evans. This is what you'll do. You'll end up being some guy who disgraces himself, who is unfaithful to his wife, who ends up being a terrible father figure, whose reputation is completely shat upon. And you're going to use prostitutes over years. This is why, brothers and sisters, you must stay within the witnesses, because this is the life that awaits you if you leave the witnesses. And that's the plan. And as you can see, it makes absolutely no sense at all. And people have gone and said, well, this is why when you see Lloyd in Warwick and he's got a really big Docker, huge camera, it's not that big, to be honest with you. I used to have a bigger camera back in the good old days. And this is why he was allowed free movement. It explains everything. And people have gone back and looked at everything. Yeah, this explains it. This explains why he got the exclusive material. Explains why he was sent into Warwick and security never went up and say, excuse me, Miss Evans, we do recognise you from your channel. Can you please stop filming in here? You know, all those things. Some people clearly bought into this, and this latest video is just like come from nowhere, from somebody, supposed to be somebody's sister, I don't know. And again, it's just reiterating the same thing. And let's be honest with you, does somebody smell something off here at all? Because if we go down that road, we can even say that maybe Kim Silvio is involved with it. You know, maybe it was code word Silvio, because maybe Kim Silvio has worked along with this as well. It's just bollocks. Who would volunteer to get their reputation absolutely trashed? Who would do that? Who would actually? Because what if we buy into this? This means that Lloyd Evans. There's no proof that Lloyd Evans. There's no footage of Lloyd Evans with prostitutes, and we have this dodgy picture of him with some, you know, youngish looking lassie in Thailand. There's no proof that he used prostitutes apart from his own admission to Kim, his live stream, and Andrew Gold and his other things. So to buy into this, we'll have to go and say that Lloyd Evans never used prostitutes, because it was just part of what the Watchtower said he should do, that he should press the, you know, code word Silvio and press the self-destruct button and say he did. There's no proof he didn't. But the fact of the matter is, you know, everybody thinks he did because he admitted to it. Who would do that? Who would do that on the international stage, on social media, say I'm going to absolutely wreck my reputation as being a husband and a father and a general good guy, and do this and actually admit it themselves? You know, it's so far-fetched. It's just bollocks. It's just complete utter bollocks. At the end of the day, let's think about it. If that was the plan, it's completely backfired. The reason why it's backfired, of course, is because loads of people still watch Lloyd Evans because they've forgiven him for his alleged prostitute addiction. They still watch him. Maybe not in the thousands, but still watch him. And there's still lots of people who say it is because of Lloyd Evans that we left the witnesses. So if the witnesses' idea was to stop people leaving the witnesses, it's completely backfired, because loads of people saw Lloyd Evans' material the past few years and have already left the witnesses. They haven't returned back to the witnesses and said, oh shit, I better go back now because the guy's been found out as being, you know, addicted to prostitutes. You know, there's loads of people who looked at Lloyd Evans after he sort of got rid of the opposition, who started off doing YouTube stuff. It was me who saw Lloyd Evans and thought, I can do this. Not I can do this better, but I can do this as well. So clearly, if this was the plan, it hasn't worked, because the Lloyd Evans material, loads of people have left the witnesses, loads of people then decide to do what he's done, to do stuff like this, and it's gone on and on and on. It's just, please, can we just stop this ridiculous Lloyd Evans conspiracy theory that he's a plant by the Watchtower, that he's still in cahoots with the Watchtower? It is completely and utterly, it's nonsense. At the end of the day everybody, you don't need me. You don't need especially Lloyd Evans now. You don't need Kim and Mikey and Jake and Wally and everybody else who does this. Because the biggest weapon you have in your armoury when it comes to realising that the witnesses is nonsense, and to showing your friends who are still in it or anybody else, is the Jehovah's Witness material themselves. You don't need our commentary to just confirm the actual lunacy that is coming out of the mouths of Stephen Lett and Tony Morris and chums. You just look at that last JW broadcast and you just need to see maybe a 1 minute segment on Twitter to know that the guy is completely insane. And Morris as well. It just goes on and on. You just need to look at the Jehovah's Witness dramas to know, oh my God, this doesn't make any sense. This is just fantasy. That whole thing of coming out of Armageddon, the paradise, which I've already discussed. All those things that Lett comes out with. You know, or is that conspiracy theory as well to make him look like make him look like he's off his tits? That bit where he goes on about, oh, you little enemies of God, babies. Oh, come on. The end of the day is you don't need us. You don't need any of us to do a running commentary. You can just go on, anybody, anywhere in this earth, can just go on and watch the broadcast, watch the drama, and say to yourself, oh my God, listen to what that guy's just said. I'm going to show this to my witnessy friends and say, did you watch this? Tell me what you thought about this. You don't need us. You don't need Lloyd Evans. You know, it's you don't need exclusive. You just need to watch the witnesses in action to realise that it is completely and utter fantasy and bollocks. You just need to look at the Carters to know there is something amiss. You just know that it's just wrong. So, I'm sorry, I don't think there's even anybody in the... If you look at the likes of Lett and Morris, do you think these guys are intelligent enough to set up this whole, you know, Lloyd Evans inside job, you know, stool pigeon, you know, Agent Orange? Do you think they've got the brains to do that when they're saying that babies are the little enemies of God? Oh, come on. So please, can we just go away from this whole Lloyd Evans conspiracy theory? It's worse than the 9/11 one. It's worse than the moon landings one. Because at the end of the day, like I said about conspiracy theories, is the problem with conspiracy theories, it takes away from the people who either done something really good or the people who've done something really bad. So it's just taking away from Lloyd Evans. Eventually, if you do this and say, yeah, it's true, that means that Lloyd Evans isn't the person that we all know he is. And we all know he's that. So, and it makes no logical sense, just like the Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's all I've got to say about that one. Oh, please, I'm begging you, don't put any comments, something to show that 9/11 was an inside job, or the moon landings were fake, or that Lloyd Evans really is still still within the Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's all a setup by Tony Morris and chums. I don't need it, because if you believe any of that, oh my God, God help you, even though I don't believe he exists. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Oh God, I'm waiting for coffee. Bye bye.